For 1,000 years, Vietnam was occupied by China, and a lot of Chinese culture was placed in Vietnamese culture. So a lot of things that are a part of Vietnam culture entered through China. There's a lot of Chinese-derived names and practices and religions that in Vietnam. A few examples of Chinese culture and Vietnamese culture. I think just when you look around, there's a lot of Chinese script in Vietnam. So Vietnamese is Romanized. We use an alphabet much similar to our alphabet in English, but all words in Vietnam also have a symbol that is either the Chinese symbol or is derived from the Chinese symbol. As far as the language goes, many official terms such as the word traffic or government, they come from the Chinese words for those same terms. In names, I know my Vietnamese name, it comes from 3 Chinese names. My last name is Trần, which comes from a Chinese last name, as well as my first name Trí comes from the Chinese Zhi. So it's it's interesting to see how much Chinese culture has affected Vietnamese culture, and how Vietnam has been able to adopt those things and make it part of their own culture, something that they truly possess. There's a lot of Chinese foods that are popular in Vietnam, but the Vietnamese people have adapted them and changed them. But if you were to look at the 2 dishes, they would look very, very similar. As far as the Chinese people living like in Ho Chi Minh, for example, they hold much of the same social standing as a normal Vietnamese person. They usually live in their own community, and I don't believe the 2 interact too much, but there isn't ever too much of a problem except for when there's a problem between Vietnam and China. There's constantly friction between China and Vietnam, and it's not something that I was ever aware of until I was living in Vietnam. But after the Vietnamese War, China actually invaded Vietnam again, and the Vietnamese won that war. Since then, China has been a little aggressive in claiming land that Vietnam also claims, and building military bases on land that Vietnam or the Philippines also claim. And sometimes that causes some tension with the Chinese people who live inside of Vietnam, or the Chinese factories that are inside of Vietnam, but usually it's okay.